All right. Hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And you know what, Danielle, I'm a little nervous. Excuse me. Pronounce your last name for me.
Dials.
Dials. Thank you. All
Yep.
right. Hello, everyone. I'm Ashley Rankin with Rest to Reset, and I'm here with the lovely Danielle Dials. And we're going to hop in today. Danielle is my first podcast guest. I'm so honored to have her. So, we're going to have an awesome conversation about burnout and recovery. And you all are going to get to know this amazing woman. And so, I'm going to hop right in, Danielle. First, we're going to start with an affirmation.
Okay.
And today's affirmation is I'm grounded, centered, and stable. I take care of the future by taking care of the present moment. This is from one of my affirmation coaches, Antonia. She's part of the Rest to Reset program. And we always like to start with an affirmation that grounds and helps to center us. And for all the new viewers to my channel who don't know who I am or what I'm about, Rest to Reset is a program, and it's an anti-grind, anti-hustle burnout disruptor, and it's an online rest portal. And we support our community to repair their relationship with rest, to count the cost of our commitments, and to respect our capacity. And resting is a skill that can be developed. And so that's really what we focus on in our programming, is developing that skill. The mission is to support 1,000 high achieving women to support their relationship with rest by 2025. How we do that is through mindset coaching, simple tools, and community. And you can take the pledge to disrupt burnout and get the 3 ways to beat burnout guide at resttoreset.org. And I want to just dive right in here with my lovely guest and her bio.
Hey, before you do my bio, I want to make sure I got the affirmation right, because I want to add it. I want to add my name to it because I really liked it. Is it I am grounded, stable, and centered?
Oh, absolutely. I'm grounded, centered, and
Centered.
stable.
Centered and stable. Okay. So when I say this, I'm adding my name to it. So I, Danielle, am grounded, centered, and stable. I'm
Yeah.
adding that one to mine. I like it. I
Oh,
need that.
yes, absolutely. I love that. So,
Yeah.
yes, please take it and embody it. You do embody it. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about that here. And let's see. I know I have your bio. Let me play with it. Of course, technology is good when it works. Almost there. All right, Danielle. So I've got you pulled up here. I want to share with the audience a little bit about you, and then we'll get into the questions. So Danielle Dials spent 22 years in the TV news industry before pursuing entrepreneurship full-time. 3 years into her entrepreneurial journey, she made a prayerful decision to return to the TV, news, and advertising industry. Danielle's TV job experience includes TV production, directing, branding, hosting, advertising, and marketing, all the things. And she serves as a director on the Saraland Area Chamber of Commerce Board. If she could jump into a pool of anything, it would be confidence and consistency. She says that over time, these two will take you to where dreams come true.
I
So,
said that.
gentlemen, you said it. You said it. Yes.
Let me write that down.
And it sounds so good. Welcome you. Welcome, Danielle. Yes.
Thank
So
you, girl.
So tell us, that we gave, I shared the bio. Is there
Mhm.
anything that you just want to share with us? Just, who you are, anything you wanted to add?
Um, I mean, obviously a lot of times a bio includes like achievements and things that we've done career wise. Obviously it's not possible to sum a whole person up as a whole in a bio. I am more than what I do. I am a woman of faith. So I try to make all of my decisions. I try to include my Lord in everything, like from personal life, social life, work life, career life. So you're probably gonna get a lot of that from me, not because I'm like intentionally like this is how I'm gonna approach this. It's just who I am. So there's that.
That's beautiful. And I like that you share that, of course, we can summarize a bit in a bio, but there's so much more to you, right? And thank you for sharing about your faith and how that contributes to the whole of who you are. So
Yeah.
can you tell us what motivated you to pursue entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I actually did not intend to go full-time entrepreneurship when I first started my business. It was more of a side project. I was really just trying to make a little money. And if I'm honest, I was also trying to prove some things to some people around me that I can do more. I'm more than what you might think of me, which is not always the right reason to do things, especially something like entrepreneurship. But if I'm honest, there was a little bit of that in there too. Um, but my vision for it became bigger. The more I worked on it, the bigger the vision got. And it got to a point to where I couldn't do both. I couldn't have my full-time job and build the business the way my vision was. And so I had to make a decision. And at that point in my life, I had gotten to a place where um, I trusted my God more to sustain me in entrepreneurship because the 22 years that I was in TV industry, I spent the majority of those years with a salary. And then the last 2 years, I transitioned into sales, which was 100% commission. And that was a real big stretch of my faith. And I was only able to do that because the different jobs that I had done on a salary, they required more of me. And I needed God to show up for me and show me that he had me then. And he did. So that was enough to take me to, okay, you can get me through sales too, but it was a real bigger stretch. But when he did that, that prepared me to where when I said, okay, I need to make a decision whether I'm gonna do entrepreneurship full time or what am I doing with this, I was able to say, you know what, he did it then,
Mhm.
so he can do it now. And so that's how I was even able to go into entrepreneurship full time. But yeah, when I first started it, it was not a intentional thing to go into it full time. I was just trying to make some money and show some people that, you know, I have what's in me that you might not know what's in me.
Right. And thank you for sharing that, sometimes, and it's just part of the human experience, right? That external motivation of wanting to show people and prove them wrong and that you can
Yeah.
do and be more. And I know that certainly many people relate to that. And it's a perfect segue, Danielle, into evolution, which is very much so a theme on this podcast. And part of Rest to Reset is like embracing the journey from
Mm-hmm.
caterpillar to butterfly.
Yeah.
And so what would you say is like one of the main benefits or something that you really gained from being an entrepreneur that's helped you?
Oh wow. I grew a lot. I learned and grew in so many different areas. For one, it gave me a bigger heart for helping people. Like it gave me more of a heart of service for other people, because in entrepreneurship, I was depending on other people to support my business. I needed other people to support my business. And so it made me more sensitive to extending a helping hand to someone else when they were in need. And when I was just completely, it's not that I was never a person that wanted to help people. I thought I was, but it really gave me a tender heart for helping people and serving other people, because it's a new level when
Mhm.
you're depending on other people to support you. It also it forced me to deepen my relationship with God, because girl, I was praying. Those seasons come when the economy is not doing well, and everybody is just trying to save a dollar, and um, they rather shop overseas than support local because we couldn't compete with those prices. I really got more intentional in my prayer life. Um, and so it helped me to strengthen and deepen my relationship with God. And he's so awesome. He even honors that. He's not like, oh, you came to me because you need it. Like, obviously I need him all the time. So it helped me in that way. It also forced me to go harder in trying to get better and learning business. That's how we met. We met in a business class, um and that was, I would not have been there if I had just been in advertising, although that all the information that we learned there is surely helpful for the industry that I was coming from, but I wouldn't have been reaching for it the way that I was reaching for it, if I had not been in entrepreneurship. So it helped me in that way. And it also just it helped me to recognize and respect myself a little bit more, because I did hard things. I did hard things, and I can really look back and be proud of the things that I was able to do through entrepreneurship, because it's not easy.
No, and you're telling the truth, because like the fact that we built out those automations, and you were like one of the first people in our cohort to like get the automations down, and automation alone is no joke. So the fact that you are getting your sequences together, and I think that's a great just testament to your resilience and your commitment to always improve.
Well, it's kind of like, I was full time in it. And so it's kind of like learning how to swim so you can get in the pool, or learning how to swim while you're in the pool. I was in the pool. So
Mhm.
I so I was in there. I was trying to figure it out, girl, because
Sink or swim.
I yeah, sink or swim.
Can you talk a little bit about, so I know you were a speaker on women's like empowerment.
It was a women's leadership conference, and it was very much, empowering women on all different aspects. We talked about, I specifically talked about building confidence, but we had other speakers there who talked about, building a better community, building a leadership network, building resilience, building financial wealth. So it was just all around empowering and just mental, emotional, financial wellness for women.
So you mentioned confidence, and I'm glad because I was going to bring that back around. S-
Mm-hmm.
To me, you came off incredibly confident and consistent.
Thank
Like
you.
so when I read that if you could jump into a pool of anything, it would be confidence and consistency. I'm like, what? She is confident. She is consistent because you come off very well. Just everything from how you speak to your presentation,
Thank
your
you.
makeup, hair, all of it. So can you walk us through a time when you weren't as confident, and how you work to that to, how to be the woman that you are today?
Yeah. So I I have not always just walked in confidence. And even now, it's very intentional. Like it's a very intentional thing. I have to remind myself because like, especially in the age of social media and just there's always temptations to compare yourself to another person's achievements or successes and all of that. So I don't feel like confidence is a thing that you reach and once you got it, you're good. I have to always be intentional about protecting and building my confidence so that I can remain confident. So I had to learn how to do that. But consistency is I've always it's always been a challenge for me to be consistent. I did this I started doing this challenge. It's called the My One Word Challenge years ago. Instead of a New Year's resolution, you choose one word and you focus on that word for an entire year. Well, the first word that I got was a word I really didn't know I needed, but the goal, because it's a faith-based organization that does it, and they encourage you to pray and ask God for your word and wait on him to reveal your word. And he really did. And he gave me, the first year he gave me the word honesty. And I was like, really? I don't be lying, Jesus. Like, why you give me this word? you know, and and so but I was like, I trust you, so I'm gonna focus on honesty. And for a whole year, focusing on honesty, it really made my confidence come alive because when I became more honest with myself, I got more confident saying no. I got more, I got better at pointing the finger inward versus pointing at other people. I got better at growing from the consequences of my own choices. It just focusing on honesty, the depths of me being honest with myself made me become more confident. But then the next year, he gave me the word consistency. And he gave it to me 2 years in a row because I got the word and I really wasn't all that consistent. I just kind of did a little bit. And the next year I thought I was going to get a new word. And he literally gave me the word consistency again. And so I had to work on consistency again. And it wasn't until I really sat down and was intentional and said, I'm going to be consistent about some things that I started recognizing that some real rewards and like fruit comes from consistency. Even if you're just seasonally consistent about some things, you can just be consistent for a season and you will experience benefits from that. And so I had to learn that. And so now I've come to a place to where I have to be intentional about it because again, there's always distractions. One thing that I try to be consistent about now is my alone time with God. Like, my relationship with him is my source. It's
Yeah.
everything. And so I try to be consistent about giving him my ear, giving him my time, and just giving him my submission. And so I have to, I've gotten better at it. I really have come to enjoy the consistency aspect of it. But yeah, it's taken me, I'm 43 and I spent all of my 20s not really being confident. I operated from the mindset of do it like you're not scared, or it was like I thought that was like healthy, but in a sense it's kind of like putting a band-aid over something and not really trying to get to the root of the issue. It is good to work through things and not really like wear your feelings or how you feel on your sleeve, but at the same time being aware that I'm not really confident. Why? Let me get to the root of it. Is important. And I have found that a lot of the areas that I weren't confident in, like I learned to be confident in what I could do, like my skills. I learned to be confident in that, but like who I am as a person. Because if my confidence comes from like my job, what if I lose that job? Then what? So I had to learn that my confidence comes from God. Because just like because just like when I was telling you, he stretched my faith in a point to where I could enter into like unknown territory because he had my back before in the previous season. He taught me that I could trust him in that way. And so my confidence now, I operate from a place of, even if I'm doing something like uncharted territory, I can approach it with confidence because I truly know I have a better understanding of who I belong to, and his consistency, his
Yes.
faithfulness is like where my confidence come from. Like I literally can boast in him. I can boast about what he's done for me, and like with confidence, even though I'm like, I don't know what you about to do in this new season of mine, but I know you enough to I'm gonna boast it up. This is who he is, this is what he does, and this is what he's gonna do.
Yes.
And inwardly I'm like, I don't know how you're gonna do it, Lord, but but I know you're gonna do it.
In the
I don't know
unknown.
how you're gonna do it. So my confidence comes from him. That's what other people see, you know.
Thank you for that. That was really beautiful. I'm sitting here listening to you and reflecting on my own journey with confidence as well. And I often think that Black women are socialized to not be confident in
Mm,
a variety of ways. And it's a balancing act of wanting to be confident, not overly confident, because then it comes off as um, something negative, arrogance, or and just the balancing act that we often have to, that fine line of walking that, but just to hear like the freedom and the confidence that you develop just in, developing your faith and knowing that you can go into uncharted territory, into uncharted waters, and know that your faith and God have your back and that you're going to come out bloomed on the other side is
mhm,
really inspiring. It's really inspiring. I want to, Danielle, share a bit, and the confidence piece. What I'm also hearing is in relationship to rest. Of course, this is the podcast about rest. How when we are confident and we show up for ourselves and we know whose we are and what we're able to do, then that literally translates right into being able to rest effectively. And I
mhm,
heard you say, spending that time with God and spending that time in rest, in listening mode. And
mhm,
so that it's just really on par and like really timely. So actually, I have another question for you as well. So
mhm.
let's see. Can you talk about your routine in terms of if you had to share with someone like if you had to give a quick summary of, and you covered this, but like a quick summary of how like your confidence in 1 minute, I don't know, it just like a short bullet point summary of how you've developed that confidence. I know you've shared that, but like someone who doesn't know anything about you, you have 1 minute to tell them, how you developed your confidence. How would you do that?
Um, be intentional about getting in God's presence daily. And when I want to enter into his presence, there's a scripture that says that um, he dwells in the praises of his people. Like he lives there, right? Like he's there. He's in the praises of his people. And so whenever I want to spend time with him, I try to enter into his courts with thanksgiving. So I have a place in my home that is our place. Any place really, but I have a special place when I really just want to meet with him, or when I'm just trying to have a long time with him, and I go there. And I will, even when I don't feel like it, I will listen to worship music, and I will try to get my heart postured to a place of adoration,
Mhm.
love, honor, praise, no matter what I got going on. I have a need, and he already knows that. I need something, but I'm not just barging in like, hey, this is what I need, panic mode. I'm
Mhm.
coming into the king's courts. I know you're able. I'm what, you know, and so like my heart posture is that. And so I come in with, and I worship him, and I sit in his presence. And that's when I really feel like transformation happens. Even if I don't feel it, sometimes I leave and I feel the same as when I walked in. But
Mhm.
I look back sometimes and I recognize how the very songs that I sang to him,
Mhm.
some way, some kind of way, I don't know when he did it, how he did it, but my heart aligned. And now I really believe what I was singing. And
Yes.
so he
That's
does it.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. He transforms my heart in that worship, and and he gives me everything that I need in that: counsel, wisdom, affirmation, love, guidance, all the things, all the things. And so I would say, I know you said 1 minute, but daily, make it a habit of getting in his presence. Even if you don't know what to say, just go and worship him. And you'll find that your confidence will increase. He's full of good gifts, but you just got to go to him. We need to invite him. He's a gentleman, so he doesn't force himself on anyone. He wants to be invited. So when I show up and I'm like, I want to be with you, I want to spend time with you, I make space, I give permission for him to bless my life.
I love that. And I just have to give that a heart, just
Oh.
extending that intentional invitation.
Hmm.
Thank you for sharing that. That is really good. I'm going to now, Danielle, briefly share about my burnout story and
Hmm.
then pivot back into your experience. So, out of my many identities, one that I really am proud of is athlete. And a large part about being I was a competitive athlete all through college, and mindset is an important part about being a competitive athlete. But I realized that, so one of my gifts, I would say, is being resilient. And this is two gifts, but another being very resourceful. But I recognize that the misuse of that gift was first my, I believe, misinterpretation of what resilience is, which at that, in the past, I interpreted interpreted resilience as how much difficulty I can withstand, and almost in a way like abuse that I can endure while showing how strong I am and resilient. And that was really a misapplication, a misunderstanding of resilience, because it wasn't for me to, and I don't think that, spirit wants us to remain in places where we're, uh, that are unsafe, where
Hmm.
we're really being mistreated, and where it's a dynamic with people, places, or things that can seriously fracture us. And so I had to really learn and recognize that. And the misuse of that gift was, and the result of it was my not respecting rest, not listening and honoring my body, and working. We share the entrepreneurship component. So working full time, and then you acknowledge it becomes so much that a lot of times you have to pick. So
Hmm.
I was at that boiling point of working full time, being an entrepreneur, and then also training, like physical training, to jump into a new career. I had a lot of fitness tests that I had to pass for this career. And so that's really where I'm calling it a pivot point, but it was a breaking point. And
Hmm. Yeah,
so
sometimes that's what it is.
absolutely what it is.
Hmm.
So like the picture here is like the first day of my new career, where I literally collapsed and I had to go to the ER. And it was just, I'll save a lot of the details, but it was just a point where I recognized that I really had to repair my relationship with rest, that I really had to learn how to honor rest properly and develop rest as a skill, just like other skills that we developed, that it was something that I really needed to be intentional about to protect my longevity, my mental, physical, and emotional health. And so, with that said, I would like to hear, if you're comfortable, sharing about a pivot, a gift, one of your gifts,
Mhm.
and how perhaps the misuse of that gift has contributed to burnout if you've experienced burnout.
Yeah. So, um, one of the gifts that I have that that I believe God is using, even in the pivot that for me leaving entrepreneurship, it has a lot to do with the gift and the calling on my life. But one of the gifts that He's given me is a gift of communication. In that, I have a gift of being able to help women, people, but I really feel called to women. I'm able to help women understand scripture and relationship with God in a way that's like tangible for them. Like He's given me the ability to be able to break down things to make it less mysterious or intimidating. He called me to, first of all, he told me years ago, this has to do with the consistency again, but he told me years ago to go to school for theology. And so,
Really?
yeah, so I went to school for theology, and I started and I didn't complete it. And then I went back and I didn't complete it. And I'm actually in it right now.
Okay.
This time, so I'm going for the, I'm going to finish it this time. But because he wants to use that. But as you can see just from talking to me now, I don't forcefully talk about God. It naturally comes out of me because it's who I am. Like this is me all day, every day, right? So my friends recognize that, and they know that, and I've experienced burnout in the area of friendship because the gift that I have, when people recognize that, yes, I'm gonna pray for you. I'm going to help encourage you in a spiritual way. It's kind of, I've learned that sometimes friends will turn to me in areas when they should be turning to God, and run to me and emotionally dump
Mhm.
everything on
That's
me.
it.
I'm the
Love it.
friend. I'm the friend that gets the calls when people are like, when things are going wrong, when they literally, I've answered the phone before. And as soon as I say hello, I get a well of and I'm just like, oh. And
Right.
so, I have experienced burnout in that way. And, God has actually, here's the thing about God that I'm learning is, even when I go to Him about those kinds of situations and I feel like, you know, I haven't done anything wrong, He always makes me look at myself. He never checks anybody else, or talks to me about checking somebody else. It's
Right.
always me. He makes me look inward. And so, in those moments, he made me recognize that, you're not being transparent with your friends. You have to be transparent with your friends. And so, before I realized that, because it didn't, it's kind of like an escalation. It didn't start out like that. It starts out as, the friendship is what a friendship is supposed to be.
Right.
And then
Give
as
and
soon
take.
as something happens, and I am a voice that helps you to see, you know Jesus, I'm pointing you to Him, then it's easy to train yourself that, oh, the next time I have a problem, let me go back to you. And now I'm that person that you should be, you're running to me like you should be running to Jesus, because that's who I have to run to. Because at the same time, I'm that friend for my friends, but who is that person for me when I need an ear? And I already know I can't call my friends because they crushing me with the weight of their, so that forces me too into relationship with Him, and He can handle it all. So I'm good. But you know I've experienced burnout in the area of friendship.
Thank you for sharing that. I know I can certainly relate in that area. And I also get the sense that you're and hear that you're empathic. And
Yes, girl. Yes. And that's another thing too, but that caused me to just um really get burned out because my friends may not realize that, you know, when you go to a person and it's one thing to share an experience with somebody as a friend and tell them how something made you feel versus telling them every detail while you're wailing and dumping the emotion. Now you're making me feel that trauma too.
yes,
I'm feeling the trauma now that you experienced
as though it's
because
our own.
yes, as if it were my own. Yours and the other ones who's calling me, all y'all's trauma, y'all making me feel it. And I got my own issues too. So I got all this trauma that
Yes.
and I'm very empathetic. So yeah.
So, and in that, Danielle, I heard you say about and talk about the burden and the heaviness of people emotionally dumping. But at what point did you realize that you needed to make a change?
When the Lord told me that you're not being transparent.
That
Because
okay.
yeah, because at first I made a change, but it wasn't a healthy change. I
Mhm.
started just like stop answering the phone, avoiding
Okay,
you, getting, you know what I'm saying? I'm irritated with you.
right.
So I didn't handle it in a way that was healthy. It was actually probably inflicting more trauma on my friends because if they're dealing with rejection and abandonment issues, and now the friend that they went to guide them is not answering the phone anymore, that is really doing harm to my friend unintentionally. So the Lord had to really sit me down in our quiet time gently. He's so gently. He never like, I never feel like it's a harsh rebuke.
And
It's always a gentle awareness. He makes me aware, this person will probably receive this as rejection and they're dealing with it already. That kind, it's always loving, and like I say, I'm willing to offer him my submission. So
sure,
once he reveals it to me, I try not to just reject that and be like, well, I try to just submit and say, you know what, Lord, thank you for making me aware of that because I didn't have that perspective. Thank you for showing me that
mhm,
and approach it, from from his perspective. I always try to ask him to give me his perspective too. If I'm really upset with somebody or a situation, I say, Lord, give me your perspective. I need your perspective because right now I'm just like, this
right.
person is just, the worst. And he always makes me look inward. But yeah, I did handle it. I just didn't handle it, healthily, in a healthy way. I started ignoring folks.
What you're sharing though, and your honesty is something that a lot of people can relate to. I know I can, in terms of what I'm hearing is boundaries and
Hmm.
having to communicate those boundaries and communicate your needs better and more with more transparency, because I've certainly struggled in that area and that has absolutely contributed to my burnout as well.
Hmm.
And the thing about resting that's so beautiful is when we recognize it as a skill. It's like any other skill that you develop. And it's like, okay, the boundary setting, communication are things that can be worked on and they can be improved.
Hmm. And sometimes, I use, I find teachable moments where I may not have to specifically point out. Sometimes a conversation needs to be had.
Mhm.
Sometimes I just definitely I need to be transparent and show a friend how what they're doing
Right,
is affecting me, right?
right.
But sometimes if I know a friend and I know that this is what they're dealing with, I can't hold them to my standard of who I think they should be. I have to understand that they are where they are. And so if I agree to meet this person for lunch, and I know that they have a tendency to, once we're there, give me a 20-second window of, hey, how you doing, girl? Everything good? And then boom, it's my turn. Let me dump, 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 dump. If I recognize that's who I am dealing with, then I look for opportunities, teachable moments during the conversation. If I recognize that they are making the whole conversation about them,
Mhm.
I will strategically at a point shift the conversation to
Yes.
make it more two-sided, to show them what a two-sided conversation friendship looks like,
Yes.
you know, because I have to be intentional too about like everything, if especially if I'm dealing with a friend who is impacted by trauma. If I say, okay, we need to talk this out, hey, let's meet for lunch, now I could have now traumatized them in that every time I call them and say let's meet, they think it's a sit down and it's a problem. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? Like that could, so I have to,
Punishment.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. And so I don't want to, and the Lord, even he got off topic. Back in the day, my son, when he was a little boy, I would be like, go write this Bible scripture. When he would do stuff, he would lie. I would make him write a scripture. The Lord God, he said, stop using my word as punishment. And I was
Oh,
like, I'm sorry. I thought I was doing a good thing, but he said, stop using my word as punishment. I mean,
wow.
that was not as gentle as,
Right.
now. He was for real. He was like, but so in the friendships that I believe that he's called us, he's called me to be a friend to this person. um I try to be compassionate, be gentle, look for teachable moments, have the conversations when they need to be had, um and trust his guidance, trust him. Like I have to go to him sometimes for like, hey, I have to look ahead. Like I know I'm going to meet with this person, and then what could I do? Give me the words if this happens. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know. I believe that um, I'm always on mission. I'm not always sit to like preach to people. People don't want to be preached to, but I'm always on mission to like be the woman I'm supposed to be, so they can see him in me. The work, you know what I'm saying? That's my mission. And so how I handle my friendships, you never know that might help that friend in a
Mhm.
later season in their life. They might have a friend like them. And they might be like, well, okay, dang, I know how to handle this because I had a friend who was a good friend to me, because we live in a cancel culture society. People will cut you off in a minute. You
That part.
start, you know what I'm saying? You need too much. The friendship requires, a little bit of sacrifice or anything. Like people will cut you off real,
Yes.
real, so I try to be a real friend to people who I, I'm friends with, but that takes me being in the presence of God, him showing me, teaching me how to be a friend. And I learned that by how he's a friend to me. The way he treats me as a friend, I try to emulate that to my friends. So I don't know if that answered your question.
It's so good. I think we're just flowing and glowing.
Yeah.
And what I'm also hearing, Danielle, is that, and this is part of rest repair as well, just recognizing true value.
Hmm.
And when something is of high value in what you're sharing in terms of friendship, that is worth repairing.
Yeah, it is. That is so true, because that's literally one of the things that the Lord brought to my attention about my friends. He was like, he made me reflect and remember all the things that I love about them. I have friends I can be myself around them. Like everybody doesn't want to be around somebody who is, going to bring up the Lord. Everybody don't really want to be around somebody like that all the time. Only when they're in crisis. Only when they're in, they people may have misperceptions of what they may think that it'd be like. But I have friends who let me be me. There is freedom in that. I have friends that I can share things with that others just wouldn't understand. I feel understood, and I value those friendships. I really do. I really believe God placed the friends in my life that I have, and I'm very grateful for them. And so, yes, they are worth fighting for. And and repairing relationships with. I'm not just going to cut my friends off, not the ones that God sent me. Now, he has allowed me to recognize that there are seasons for levels of friendship. I may have a friend where, we may be in a season where we're like every day we are, connecting in some kind of a way. And then she might evolve into a new season that requires more of her time. And so now we're not able to spend the amount of time together that we once did. And because of that, as a direct result of that, we're not as close. It doesn't mean that I don't love you. It doesn't mean that I've forsaken that friend. It doesn't mean that something's coming to my heart that's turned me away from that friend. But I
Right.
just recognize that we're in a new season to where we're not as close as we used to be. And so, the levels of friendship, God has allowed me to recognize that they change sometimes, and that's okay. But and sometimes he reveals everybody's not a friend. Sometimes I go through growing seasons that where I thought that a person, we had friendship potential, and the Lord revealed to me that actually I wanted you to recognize something. I wanted you to learn something. I wanted you to grow something from that. I allowed it, but it doesn't mean that I intended for that person to be your lifelong friend. But it didn't catch me off guard. It wasn't a mistake. It was a reason for it. And
As you
so
said, teachable moment, teachable season.
yeah, yeah.
And I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
Did
girl,
you
you're
have
good.
something else
You're
with that?
good.
So what you've shared in terms of friendship actually is a significant component to burnout recovery, and rest repair is having community,
Mm-hmm.
which includes friendships, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Genuine friendships, genuine connection, which
Yep.
is very important in terms to help build our emotional resilience, our ability to be seen and heard and be in relationship with others is very important.
Mm-hmm.
People that are often experiencing burnout are isolated,
Yeah.
one reason or another, and they're detached from
Mm-hmm.
their community, whatever that looks like. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very on par and in alignment, I would say, with with rest repair. Everything
Yeah.
that you shared.
Yeah. I totally agree. I'm in this place now where I'm really appreciating the friends that I have in my life, and I recognize because years ago, um, I didn't have close friendships like I do now. I didn't know the difference back then, because back then a friend is just somebody who you hang out with and all of that. But I recognize now, like, I am more at rest as a whole, like mentally, emotionally, sensory, spiritually, like all of that. I'm in a new place. I'm in a new place right now, um, and where I'm at, I am blessed with great friendships. I really do. I have good friendships, and I know I talked about friendships burnout. I've experienced burnout with friendships, but that doesn't mean that I don't have great friendships. I really do. And not all my friends burn me out. But I totally agree that relationships play a big role, healthy relationships, and in wellness and just overall wellness, because we were made for relationship. We were made to be in community with one another. I think we thrive and we do better in every area when we're in healthy relationships, not relationships for the sake of being in a relationship,
That's right.
but healthy relationships cause everyone to thrive and grow, I think.
There's so many gems I'm pulling from this conversation, from friendship burnout to friendship like bliss.
Mm-hmm.
And you've shared a lot of gems in terms of how to cultivate that, and communication, that it's give and take. And then I think you also give your friends a gift when you recognize the evolution of friendship as well.
Mm-hmm.
And when dynamics change, that the interactions change, and it's not necessarily a good or bad thing. It just is, and giving people the grace and the space to move and kind of figure out as we evolve, that really is a gift.
Yes, and it takes maturity on both ends to be able to accept that. Because if not, if a person is not secure and mature, then that could cause them to be envious even. That can cause them to really envy the evolution in your life. You know
That's
what I'm saying? And versus celebrating it
yes,
and recognizing that, you know, it doesn't mean you're not great and awesome and you know what I'm saying too, but it takes a real intentional maturity to
mhm,
be able, because it hurts sometimes when your friend, when you're not as, I recognize that it's a painful reality sometimes
yes,
when your friend, y'all moved into to a different season and you feel like y'all aren't the same anymore, you know. And it could be for a number of reasons. It could be for um just a calling God has on their life, and he's moving them further into their calling. It could be, you know, you both were single and one got married.
right,
You know what I'm saying? And now it's not that you're not friends, but the trajectory of that person's life who's married is now on a trajectory with a husband and a family that they're creating, you know. And so you just it takes a good friend to be able to allow their friend the grace to evolve.
that's beautiful. What I'm hearing too, if I could add, I'm
Mm-hmm.
hearing self-awareness, which we talked about maturity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Self-awareness and others awareness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that combination and that balance of both, that
Mm-hmm.
maturity. Can you share, Danielle, a red flag and a green flag in terms of, can you share a red flag in terms of how you felt in your body? Maybe if it's, and people are different, right? When there's just that feeling of unsettledness or that something's not right, or that like in a friendship where you've not been safe,
Mm-hmm.
how you've recognized that in yourself. And then could you then share a green flag of knowing like, okay, this is a safe space. I can continue to pour into this person.
Yeah. So I think it's important to like look at the fruit of a
Mhm.
person's life. Like what are they doing? Do they, if a friend of mine is prone to gossip about other people to me, right? Red flag that I can't trust you with my information, with my heart, with
Right.
my, you know.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's not even about gossip. It could be just complaining. If a
Mhm.
friend is complaining all the time, you know, those kinds of things are signals that they are not healthy
Right.
inwardly. There's some things that need to be dealt with. And I'm not trying to like pick people apart and like and judge where people are at in life, because I've been there. I've been there, but knowing that, hey, when I was in that place, you know, don't tell me what you don't want me to share, because I might intend not to, but if I'm in the right time, setting, place, it might come out. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I recognize it. So like looking for the fruit of a person's life, because a person always produces fruit. It's either good fruit or bad fruit. You know what
Mm,
I'm saying? So what kind of fruit are they producing in their life? And that's going to show you like what kind of person that they are,
don't tell the
right?
truth, isn't it?
Yeah. So I would say, you know, if you recognize just signs of dishonesty, red flag. It could
Mhm.
be, you know, not just lying, but it could be just anything, like taking something that don't belong to them, or insinuating, if you're having a conversation and their advice is to do the shady thing, or
Right.
you know, be cutthroat to somebody else or stab that person in the back, or if that those kinds of things, um red flags. Green flags um are, for me, I want to know, like, I want to know if your heart is pure. And so it takes time to recognize those kinds of things. So I listen to what people say. I really do. I listen to what they say. I look at how they respond when they're angry. I look at how they treat people who can't help them. I
That's a
look at how they, yeah, I look at um, how they treat other people who have less than them. I look at things. Because I wanna see if a person's heart is pure. I want to see in their conversation, is their conversation um wholesome? Is their conversation something that I feel safe about, like taking the guard down in my heart, right? Because if you're always spewing out hatred or division and all this stuff, and I let you into a close space in my heart, like, you're going to be feeding my spirit that,
yes.
and so I don't want to have to always be guarded around somebody's like, oh, they're always going to be talking about hateful stuff, so I had to be guarded. Like, I want to look to see, is it safe for me to let this guard down? Because what you're spewing out, is it healthy for my heart? So do you speak of good things? Do you encouraging things when you were going through trials? Like how do you handle those types of things? Are you looking to God? Are you prayerful? Are
Mhm.
you all those kinds of things? It's a deeper level of how I how I assess green flags. And a lot of times red flags are way more quicker to identify,
Right.
right? The green flag for me, the real green flags, they don't come right off the top. I can't, it's impossible to see a green flag immediately. All I know is I haven't seen a red flag yet. I haven't seen a red flag yet. But then when I trust, I try to trust the leading of God. I try not to ignore. So I used to ignore signs. I try to make things what I wanted them to be. And I've grown and learned that that's not wise.
Right.
It's naive. And so the red flags are always there. Even a person who's trying to, like, not show them to you, they're gonna say something. They're gonna do something. It doesn't mean as soon as a person says something, like, for instance, this guy, he wanted to date me, and he he tried for, like, we had a mutual friend, and he tried forever to get this friend to, like, get us in a room together, you
Okay.
know? And at the time, he was literally going through a divorce. So I was like, nah, I'm not trying to. He first of all, he couldn't understand that I don't want to even get in a room with him while he's married. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not even divorced yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, you still married. I know you say it's over and it's this and that, but I just didn't feel right in my spirit
Right.
starting something in the middle of your divorce. It's not even final. So I really didn't want to, meet up with him.
Right.
And so then he gets divorced. It took like a year, by the way. So if I had got involved, that would have been a whole year of trying to work the divorce out and all of that. But anyway, it took like a year or so, and I wasn't waiting on him to get divorced or anything like that. But the friend, she kind of, I'm gonna have something at the house on Thanksgiving. Well, at Thanksgiving, and she invited me, and she's like, oh, and so is gonna be there, and I'm like, okay. So he comes, and it was red flag after red flag after red flag. Little things like, well, some were big, but some were subtle. Like, my friend had gone all out to prepare the meal, the Thanksgiving meal. And he came and he said, he, like, criticized, like, some kind of cranberry salad she made. And he was like, joking about it. Like, what is that? Like, that don't look good. And just
Right.
like making a joke about it. And I get it. Sometimes that's people's sense of humor or whatnot. But I was thinking, like, what an idiotic thing to say. This woman has gone out of her way and prepared. She was up all night, and she did it. The
It's
first thing you
tasteful.
said, yes, the first thing you said was you insulted a dish, right? But then he didn't let it go. He just kept. That was his talking point. He made a joke of it, and I could look at her face, and she was like, okay, but she didn't really like it, and I could tell. And I was just like, why is he's an idiot, right? And so those little type things like that, right? And then in time I recognized where he was a real jerk. Like, he was a real jerk. And but those little things, like in the beginning where he insulted someone's dish that she made, man rolled off somebody else's shoulder, but I recognized it. I ignored it, because at that point, if other people were saying, guys sometimes say stupid stuff, how so and so is, but he's a good guy. They may talk about their man. He say dumb stuff all the time and this and that, but just don't write it off. So I'm like, okay, but in time, I recognized, like, I should have paid attention to the red flag because he really was an idiot. I should have. And he showed me that. He
From the
showed me that
beginning.
right off
Yeah.
the top. So like the red flags, they're always there. We just tend to
Right.
try and say, no, give him another chance. No, maybe it's me. And no, recognize the red flags and respect it. Be grateful that you got it on out the way.
And so thank you for sharing that. When you
Mhm.
talk about red flags too, I'm also hearing, as you shared earlier, developing your confidence, developing your consistency, and how, and in your relationship with God and your self, I'm calling it self-worth.
Mhm.
Um, you may call it something else, but how all those uh, skills and prioritizing self puts you in the best position to love yourself and protect yourself from things that, because sometimes we talk ourselves into things that aren't healthy because we're coming from an unhealed space,
Yeah.
coming from a
Yeah.
space where we want to be in relationship more than we want to be repaired for whatever reason. So
Mhm.
I think that's, you've shared some good points about red flags and green flags, and just honoring that voice and honoring what you see. It doesn't
Yeah.
be, it is what it is, and we can take things at face value. That's
Yeah.
important. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes people do say they misspeak. But it's safe to, if something hits me in my spirit, like I feel like I trust myself to recognize if someone just misspoke. I
That's
just learning to trust the Holy Spirit is what it is. It's the Holy Spirit that's really like revealing to me in
mhm.
a gentle way, because he's a gentleman. He's not gonna force, like like walk away, end it. He's like, hey, pay attention. You
Right.
see that? Ah, a
That's
light bulb. It's like that. They can trust it. And that
yes.
feels good. That feels so good to know that, like, he's got my back in that way, because he's the only one that can see into a person's heart. I
Mhm.
cannot. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't see into a person's heart, but what's in what's in a person's heart, he says it's gonna come out of their mouth. A person's
Yes.
gonna speak
Out of
what's
the
in their
abundance of the heart, the mouth
heart.
speaks. Mhm.
There you go.
That's
And
it.
so, like, he and even if I miss what they spoke, like the
Mhm.
fruit that they produce, he's
Back to
like,
mhm.
a good tree can only produce good fruit. A bad tree can only produce bad fruit. So
Uh,
he helps me in every area of my life.
yes. And there's a lot of heartache and headache that we avoid when we lean in and we listen to that wisdom.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And that's the point, right? He wants me to bring everything to him because he's like, listen, your enemy, he came here to kill, steal, and destroy everything. Your hope, your confidence, he want to kill it. He want to steal it. He want to destroy it. Your potential, your future. He said, but I came so that you can have life and have it to the fullest. I want you to have a full, abundant life. And like that, he's that friend, not in the corner, but in my heart. Like, like, yeah, check this out. Recognize this. Step away from that because he wants me to have a full and abundant life. Like he literally, actually, one of the first things I remember God saying to me, and it's so interesting that I'm having this podcast with you. He said, I am your rest. He
Oh,
told me that.
oh, I love that.
He told me that. He said, I am your rest. And when he said it, I didn't recognize the depth of his word. Because when he speaks something, all of creation lines up to make it happen. That's like when he said, let there be light, all of creation just was like, whoa, get in formation. The
Mhm.
Almighty One said, let there be light, let there be light. You know what I'm saying? And so when he speaks a word, like there is depth in that word. And so he said, when he said, I am your rest, I thought it was because I was going through a season and I was having a hard time sleeping at night. I was literally having a hard time getting physical rest. But
Mhm.
there were underlying things,
Right.
like spiritually that I didn't have rest in those areas. He taught me, I was able to look back and have like an aha moment, like, oh my goodness, like you really gave me rest. My soul rests in you. He gave me rest. He made me aware that yes, I want you to have physical rest, but I also want you to have emotional rest.
Yes.
I care about your wholeness, the wholeness of you. I care about it. I want you to have mental rest. I
Yes.
want you to have even social rest. Like I
Mhm.
want you to know when it's time for you to like take a break, even from like your friendships, and just rest. Spend some alone time with me. Like like he 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 revealed to me through relationship in such a deep way that I can't even articulate it, that he is my rest. My whole soul rests because of him. And that's important to him. He literally spoke that to me. And it was one of the first things that I remember him ever saying to me.
That's beautiful. Like when you shared that I am your rest, I started to tear up some. And what you're sharing about the different types of rest, spiritual rest, emotional rest, social rest. I know that you had the opportunity to meet Dr. Dalton Smith
Mm-hmm.
at your the Women's Empowerment Conference.
Yes.
And she shares about all those different types of rest, and that it's
Mm-hmm.
not just about sleeping, but we can really
Yeah.
be deprived, have rest deficits in various areas.
Yes. And that was a light bulb moment for me when she was our keynote speaker. And I did not recognize like that there are different areas of rest. So I wrote them down. There's physical rest, mental rest, social rest, sensory rest, spiritual rest, emotional rest, and creative rest. When she broke those different areas down and then actually gave pointers on how to give intention to each specific area and like getting rest, it was such a light bulb moment because compartmentalizing those areas makes it easier to recognize in my life like where I need to rest, right? So for me, like I had no idea to think about sensory rest.
Right.
And now I do, I really recognize how like just looking at my phone all day and looking at a device all day is causing my brain to be wound up in and it's not easy to like unwind that. But
Right.
had she not taught me that, I wouldn't have recognized it. So it is so important to recognize the different areas because then you can approach those areas individually,
Yes.
right? So awareness is like everything. So I was really grateful that she was our keynote and she shed some light on that.